Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from, and thank you for joining another one of our Kneat Solutions webinars. My name is James Carey. I'm the Digital Events Manager here at Kneat Solutions, and I want to welcome you to our very special State of Validation Survey Report for 2024. This is one of the biggest webinars we have every year, and we're very excited to be bringing it to you again. If you don't know who Kneat is or what Kneat does, in a nutshell, we are a software as a service company providing everything you need for digital validation and digital validation solutions. Every year we host a conference, Validate, that this year just finished up in Berlin, so watch out for next year's announcement. And as well as the State of Validation Survey, a survey we conduct every year of the validation and digital validation industries to get your opinions, your thoughts on where is our industry at, what are our problems, what are our challenges, and what are the solutions coming up. So this is the webinar to hear about that survey. And we've got a great lineup of folks joining us to talk about that survey. First, I want to give you a rundown on our webinar today. Thank you for joining us again. It looks like you got logged in okay. To the right of our video box, you'll see a few different tabs for engagement. There's a chat going. You can message us in the chat. Right now, we've got some lively discussion on where people are joining us from. See a couple in Boston, Indianapolis, Raleigh, some great representation from the Eastern United States, but we want to see where all of you are from. So feel free to type in there anytime during the webinar. Tell us your thoughts on the discussion or the points that we're talking about. There will also be 2 interactive polls during the webinar, so you will see those pop up in a polls tab just to the right of the video, right there with the chat and Q&A. So you can participate in our polls. We'll stop for about a minute or so during the presentation for each of them to get your thoughts, your opinions. Again, we want to hear from you still. Also on that tab off to the right, you'll see the Q&A box. That Q&A, we will get to as many questions as we can with whatever time we have at the end of the presentation today. So feel free to put in your questions throughout the presentation today, and we will get to them as much as we can at the end. Whatever questions we're not able to get to, we will be sure to follow up with you individually via email or some way after the presentation. If at any time you want to know more about Kneat, you have some feedback for our webinars, you want to tell us what you want to see on our next Kneat webinar, you can always email us at info@kneat.com to get a one-on-one demo of Kneat GX as a software to learn more about what Kneat does or how you can partner with us. Your feedback is super important to us, so we look forward to hearing from you. I don't want to spend too much time on today, so I'll just stop on this copyright and disclaimer statement briefly. And I'll move right along to introducing our moderator and host for today, Art Gehring. Art Gehring is the VP of Marketing here at Kneat. Art, so happy for you to join us. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, James. Thanks for kicking it off. Really excited to be here as well to talk about the third version of our annual State of the Validation Survey. And I'm really excited to have such a great group of expert panelists who will help us really understand what the data is telling us. So let's get started. We've got our agenda today is, first we'll quickly talk about, what the survey is about, why we did it. We'll talk about some of the methodology and who responded to the survey, and then we'll get right into, the results. And it's going to be hopefully very interactive discussion from our panelists throughout, the 5 sections of the survey. But the next, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll open up to Q&A, as James was saying. So be sure to, enter those questions as they come to mind so that we can be sure to address them. Of course, the primary goal is really to kind of drill down on some key facts, but give you a teaser of the survey. It's a very extensive survey, and we can't possibly cover everything it's in there. So encourage you to evaluate a copy of the survey. We'll be sending that to all of you when it's available. Right now, we're still just kind of wrapping it up. We're in final analysis and formatting stage for the survey. So we'll be sending to you as soon as it's available. All right. Well, let's get into it. I'm really excited again to introduce our expert panelists. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their organization. And we'll start with you, Adolfo.
Thanks, Art. Good morning, everyone. As Art said, my name is Adolfo Santana, and I am a partner with Barry Waymiller Design Group. I've been involved in the life sciences industry now for over 30 years. My educational background and professional roots are in pharmaceutical product development, and for the last 20 years, I've been in a quality and regulatory compliance role associated with all elements of quality management systems and product realization and commercialization. I've been in a consulting role in this capacity with Design Group since 2009. Design Group is a fully integrated engineering consulting company providing a wide array of services to the food and beverage industry, industrials, advanced technologies, and life sciences industries. Our full stack of capabilities include engineering and architecture, construction management, systems integration, and of course, what I do, regulatory compliance. So from planning to commissioning and validation, quality engineering, and process improvements, we're essentially a one-stop shop for all aspects of product commercialization in the life sciences market.
Thanks, Adolfo.
Got it.
Next panelist that we have is Jun Leong. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Art. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is June, and I'm the Business Unit Director at No Deviation. To date, I have over 15 years of experience in the field of commissioning, qualification, and validation on areas of facilities, utilities, and equipment. I've worked in Malaysia, Singapore, and China. So No Deviation is based in Singapore with offices in Ireland and China. We were set up in year 2007 at the request of our customers. We have grown since from a one-man operation to a global engineering solutions provider with over 90 employees over the world. Now, with our years of project experience across multiple companies, we focus on delivering value-adding CQV, commissioning, qualification, and validation services, developing lean CQV methodology as leading experts. Today, we pride ourselves on offering extensive range of solutions tailored for pharmaceuticals, life sciences, food and beverage. Our mission is really to empower organizations through customized digital solutions such as Kneat, using process automation, advanced data analytics. So I'm excited to contribute during this panel discussion. Back to you, Art.
Thanks, June. And I understand you're joining us from Singapore, so I appreciate you joining us at an awkward hour. Thanks very much.
Pleasure's all mine.
Next up, yeah, sure. Next up, Justin, welcome and excited to have you as well.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with our friends from Kneat once again. So I've been with PCI for 15 years. I've been in the industry for 17. So PCI is a calibration services, CQV, and consulting firm. We work with our clients in the life sciences industry to help them with all the phases of the engineering journey from start to finish. Our consulting group, which specifically I manage, as well as our CQB group, we work primarily with digital platforms. So we help our clients to implement, manage, and run those platforms to ensure that they have the best outcomes for their facilities and their programs. So really looking forward to being with you guys today. Right back to you, Art.
Thanks, Justin. Welcome, all of you. Really excited about having you all to help us interpret the survey. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the survey itself, and I would be remiss in not starting with the fact that it would not be possible without the partners that we have on the panel today. They assist in the analysis of the data, recruiting responses, etc. So thank you all very much. And anyone on the webinar today that did participate as a respondent, we thank you as well. So let's talk a little bit about the survey itself. So this is, as I said, the third version of the survey. It grows every year. We had a 23% increase in responses over 2023. And since it's 3 years old, it was initiated in 2022. I'm sure some of you can do that math. And it is a global survey. and the first and only of its kind, really, in evaluating this important area of validation. It has lots of quantitative and trend results now that we're doing for multiple years. And as I said today, we're only going to be able to touch the surface on a lot of those and dive into a few of those topics. So strongly encourage you to take a look at the executive summary and the full report that we'll be sharing after the webinar. And so again, it enables a kind of a deep dive and all the kind of key issues that the validation professional and organizations that where validation is important to dive into. What's important to know is this is written by an expert, right? We, of course, Kneat plays a very important role in sponsoring it and recruiting responses and all that as needed. But really, we rely on an expert, Jonathan Kay from Harvard, and a co-founder of the first online medical market research firm, who's really kind of a market research data expert to really help us formulate the questions, to evaluate, what the results really mean, what to focus on for the report, et cetera, et cetera. So, in addition to the partners here, we do have an external expert to make sure that this is the highest quality. And in addition to getting the survey, we encourage all of you on the webinar today to participate in 2025. And there's a really kind of a whole microsite about the state of validation survey, but that specific link you see on the bottom /survey is how you can sign up to participate in 2025. So let's get into it. Let's start with sort of who responded to the survey, and a wide range of organizations and sizes, industries participated. And in terms of the individuals that participated, it also get a broad range with, in terms of years of experience, seniority, job function, location, team size. It's a global. One thing that's important to point out is that 89% of those that responded indicated they were in a related life science industry, pharma, biotech, medical devices, et cetera. And then, we also had representation from additional regulated industries, including consumer health, aerospace, food and beverage. So broad range of participants. We break down, and our discussion today will be around 5 topic areas. So people and organizations, all about, the types of organizations we just touched on some of those firmographics, but also the demographics of the respondents, but, kind of some of the issues they face, what motivates them, what their pains are, outsourcing, that team size and things like that. The second section is around, the validation programs. We're actually changing the order a little bit today. So actually the second section that we show today is around goals and growth. But the report itself is actually, we switched it because, in terms of what we felt was important to talk about. So, but anyway, the second section is around, work processes, CSA adoption, ROI, the use of digital validation, budgets, et cetera. The third section, goals and growth, both professionally in terms of the organization, how are they evaluating validation, the importance of the business. And then we kind of get into futures a little bit in terms of what's driving the industry, what are key trends around digital transformation, remote audits, things like that. And then kind of finally wrap it up with kind of the futures and what's on people's minds and things like that. So very robust survey. And as you can imagine, in a webinar, we can't possibly cover all these things. So we're going to kind of cover at a very high level each section, and then kind of dive into some key topics. But before we do that, we're going to get you all involved, right? We're going to start off with our first poll. And we're going to start with an important topic. What is validation? A key thing that we all face, which is what is the biggest validation related challenges facing your organization today? I'm going to turn it over to James to help us conduct that poll.
Thanks, Art. So again, everyone, you'll be seeing the poll option on the right side of your screen. You can click into that, and we already have some submissions already. So 20% of our audience is saying audit readiness, 50% is saying efficiency, 20% compliance burden, and 10% data integrity. So these numbers are shifting around a little bit as I'm talking, but efficiency is a clear standout in the head with 50% of the vote. All right, we'll leave this open for about a minute here. I opened this up a little bit early, so we got those submissions in. So let's see. Yeah, we are still hovering around that same area. 52% now is efficiency as the biggest validation related challenge facing organizations today.
Are we all set, James, with the poll?
Yep, we are all set. It
Okay.
looks like, yeah, that is about our standout. So 50%
Okay.
efficiency,
Yep.
20% for both audit and data, and 10% for compliance.
Thank you. So we also asked this question in the survey. So let's take a look at kind of the responses in the survey. Little bit of a difference. I think, kind of the same. I think similar things bubbled up to the top, but a slight difference, which maybe we'll put to the panelists to kind of give their thoughts on. But this is the results for 2024. Compliance was number one. Audit readiness number two. We heard about that. Data integrity, efficiency. A little lower down in the results that we got from respondents. And then you can see there were some other things that we asked about: human resources, both human people and financial resources. Paper, obviously a problem, and some other things. But you can see here the top four is compliance, audit readiness, data integrity, and efficiency. And what we also took a look at, because we have multi years of responses, is what is the trend over time with the responses that we had to this question, right? And you can see in 2022, pretty consistent. Lack of human resources was number one in both those years. But this year, number one was the compliance burden, which was not even in the top five in previous years. And then efficiency, which was the number one response from the respondents today, kind of dropped down from second to fourth, and audit readiness moved up. So kind of interesting things. I think obviously it depends on who we're asking and what's top of mind for them. But interesting things to talk about. And given that, I think I'm going to invite one of our panelists to maybe share some insight on some of this. I'm going to ask Justin, please, to maybe I'll kick you off with a question, but kind of interested in your thoughts on this results. In your experience, what has been the most challenging aspect of maintaining compliance within validation programs, and how have you addressed it?
Sure. Thanks, Art. So I know it feels like it's been forever ago at this point, but if we look back on the COVID period, it really changed everything. And if there's one thing that it definitely did, it demonstrated the need for every phase of the therapy life cycle to speed up. Right. So speed to market absolutely matters. It matters now more than ever. That means building faster. That means getting installations done faster. And of course, that means commissioning and qualifying things faster. So that's kind of part one. Part two is just the sheer amount of data that are being generated during these projects. I mean, these facilities, they're bigger than ever. These new projects, they're bigger than ever. We've got new therapies coming online, with the cell and gene therapy market. So whether we're talking about cell and gene and clinical or greenfield projects, everything in between, we're generating far more data than we've ever generated before, just to support these activities. So when you combine that need to do things faster while also managing more information than you've ever done before, that creates a real compliance challenge, right? Just the sheer burden of the volume that you're dealing with and the speed at which you're doing it. So I suspect that that's at least a part of why the survey results were what they were. Your top three responses were compliance, audit readiness, and data integrity. And to me, those three topics all walk hand in hand. And then, the efficiency piece of it as well, that, kind of speaks to this need for being able to do things as quickly as possible, to get to market as quickly as possible. So I absolutely understand why that would keep your site heads and your quality heads up at night. There's this incredibly competitive market that's forming around a lot of different therapy classes right now. So, this drive towards being efficient as possible to get things to market. But none of that matters if the data isn't complete and robust. So I think that's why the data integrity really rose to the top of your survey results. So, what have we done about it? So when we're talking to our customers and clients and others in the industry, we're putting a real increased emphasis on data collection earlier. So in the past, it's been a very, each department is very siloed, right? Like, so your C&Q department, often doesn't even get a chance to touch things until it's reached that mechanical complete phase. Instead, what we're encouraging is, hey, let's look at the data collection opportunities that come much earlier in the process. So, all your stakeholders, your C&Q, your engineering, your calibration, your software, IT folks. If you can get everybody to start, collecting that data on the front end of your projects, once by the time it gets to that C&Q process, it's more or less a checkbox instead of starting from scratch. So with the speed to market and the need to have robust, complete, accurate data, the earlier that you can get in and start collecting that data, whether it be you're making sure that your drawings are correct, making sure that your model and serial numbers are correct, knowing where every single valve on your system is. The earlier you can get those things out of the way, the better off that you're going to be downstream.
Thanks, Justin. All right, so let's kind of dive into, now that we've got you all warmed up, let's dive into kind of the essentials of the survey, starting with the first section, people and organizations. So what we saw here is the workload is steadily increasing. Every year that we've run this survey, the majority of respondents have indicated that their workload is increasing. It is at somewhat of a declining rate, but still the majority are indicating that it's increasing. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We'll look at that data. In terms of the drivers for increasing workloads that we saw from the respondents was company expansion, new products, and work process changes. We also saw that the measurement around the size of validation staff is not growing in terms of the buckets that we see. So, the conclusion is organizations are not investing in validation staff, and not a surprise if the workload is increasing and staff is not increasing. Validation outsourcing is growing, right? Of course, it just doesn't add up otherwise. 78 of respondents indicated that they were outsourcing some of their validation work, and the primary driver for using outsourcing was value. And like I said, we're going to drive more into that. We also, asked a number of questions around, salary and compensation, and the one takeaway that we see is that there is a correlation with the size of an organization and the salary size. So, you can learn more about that in the survey itself. And we also noticed and saw that there is a significant depth of experience in validation, right? Definitely skewed towards people with more experience in this industry. And the highest bucket, if you will, was 36% in 15 years of validation experience. So that's kind of a quick summary of this section. Let's kind of drill into a couple of the data on a couple of points, starting with workload. So the question was, over the past 12 months, how has your workload changed? And you can see the blue bar, which is the increase answer. That is the biggest, for each year, but it is smaller, right? So, and the green is stayed the same. The orange bar is decrease. Not seeing a lot of decrease indicated by our respondents. So that is kind of what we're seeing here. We also want to talk about outsourcing, right? So the question here is, what percentage of your validation efforts are outsourced to a managed service or consulting firm? And what the data shows us is that companies outsourcing 0% of their validation labor, 0% decrease from 33 to 22%. So, the corollary to that is 78% are using some quantity of outsourcing. Notably, those outsourcing over 76% grew from 2 to 5%, highlighting a trend towards higher outsourcing levels. So definitely seeing a trend towards more outsourcing. So that brings us to discussion point number 2, and I'm going to invite June in to help us with this one. June, kind of kick you off with a question. In your experience, what are the primary causes of any workload increases in validation teams?
Yeah, thanks, Art, for the question. Um, I think just reiterating something that Justin said earlier about doing things faster, getting faster to speed, need to have more robust, complete data. So these are all the big influences that I see, or the factors that I see that's driving the workload to be more and more. And as you know, in the current situation, economy, companies are being more conscious about cost. They're trying to drive more efficiency, right? So there need to be a balance between like driving so much efficiency and overloading a person. So going back to the question, in my experience, what have I seen as a primary cause of workload increase? Well, I think like as there's more need to get things done faster, getting the product faster to market, the life science manufacturers are seeking more efficiency in a manufacturing process through computer systems, right? The demand to install and maintain an array of increasingly complicated system and computer software grows because their risk profiles might be higher because they're closer to manufacturing. So it leads to increased workload for the validation team to be a bit more thorough with these systems. The adoption of these advanced technologies as well leads to an increased number of complex computer systems. And again, that goes back to the point of them trying to validate the system, trying to maintain a system, right? And another part would be like the rapid pace of technology and technology changes that we see year after year also results in regulatory bodies also responding to the change and knowing what to look out for. This in return itself needing the validation folks in the company to keep themselves constantly updated with the latest development that the regulatory bodies are looking for. So that for me, like those are the couple of items I see that are really driving up the workload with the finite number of validation resources that a company has at.
Thanks, June. I have another question for you. Based on the recent survey that we just shared, organizations have indicated the primary drivers for outsourcing validation tasks. From your perspective, what are the critical factors that determine the success of outsourcing, and how can companies effectively manage the risks to ensure quality and compliance?
Yeah, so back to your original finding, like the primary driver, as we see summarized, is that we see that the external parties adding a lot of values, right? Because they have been to different organization and they bring the best things that they see from different companies into the company they are serving. To make sure that it's successful of this partnership, I think first and foremost, we need to have a clear communication and alignment of expectations between the organizing, hiring the external provider, because it's essential. That's essential to have an alignment to ensure that we know what to be delivered. The organization the organization will know what to be delivered to ensure a successful partnership, right? Secondly, I feel like a well-defined process a well-defined process with the roles and responsibility should need to be established from the very early on, because the external providers, they are external, so they might not be very clear about the internal processes the company has. So they might bring value, but they might bring a different side of things, and we need to have a control that these external parties follow along so that we do things in a controlled manner. The third would be like having a periodic monitoring and auditing the performance of the outsourced validation team. And that's crucial to ensure that they are really following the SOP and maintaining in compliance, because you do not want to be in a situation that you have a non-compliance when you are thinking that you are getting the external validation resources that could add value. So that would be a bit counterproductive, right? So, and the last one, I feel like a robust change management process is necessary. For example, if really from your periodic monitoring and audit that the external validation team is not performing, how can you ensure that the switch out is efficiently done, a handover is efficiently done, to make sure that there's a continuity of service which will meet the level of quality and compliance of the organization, right? So Art, that's my couple of points.
Appreciate that. Thanks, June. Appreciate that. I was muted for a sec, so I don't know if you guys heard me, but thank you for that insight. Appreciate it. So let's take a look. Let's move on to the second section, which is, as I told you, we switched the order on you a little bit. We just felt this was a better priority to review the results of the survey. So in terms of goals and growth, validation professionals find contributing to life-saving therapies to be the most enjoyable and rewarding facet of their roles. Very, very compelling. We're all motivated by, the end result and taking care of patients. So that's great. Validation professionals ranked create process efficiencies as the primary goal for their organization validation programs. Getting back to, challenges that we heard in our initial poll. So that's consistent with that. And then we also have heard about being more audit ready and, audit success and harmonizing processes across sites. Survey results highlight a consistent trend where the expected priority of compliance with regulatory requirements or industry standards, cost savings achieved through efficient validation processes, and improvement in product quality or reliability, it's emerged as the most prevalent KPIs. So these are the ways that organizations, the KPIs that they're using to measure on the goals that we mentioned in the second bullet. And validation professionals find achieving faster speed to market to be the business strength most impacted by validation performance, followed by increasing business revenue. So along the lines of what Justin was saying earlier, I think we're actually seeing kind of a trend, in addition to efficiency, also, moving the top line, right? Helping get products to market faster and increasing business revenue, both top line things rather than cost drivers. So let's talk a little bit more about some of these. We touched on the goals. So in 2024, when asked the question, what are the primary goals of your organization's validation program? There we are, efficiency. So we're seeing, efficiency, audit readiness, they're all kind of rotating through. They're all important. Being more audit ready, audit success, and that moved up. That's in the top three for the first time in 2024. And with the reason we mentioned the top three, you could see there's a pretty significant drop off with the top ones and some of the other answers. Audit readiness moved up, and right first time minimizing deviations actually moved down from second to in the previous 2 years to looks like fifth. Let's talk about the KPIs. Number one is compliance, and that is a consistent trend across 2023 and 2024 is compliance with regulatory requirements or industry standards. Just to note, in order to make these charts readable, we did sort of crop the legends. So when we say compliance, you see that in the chart. The full answer is compliance with regulatory requirements or industry standards. But if we had all that in the chart, it would not be readable in a webinar. And then, followed by cost savings achieved through efficient validation and improvement in product quality or reliability are the top KPIs. In terms of the business impact, we touched on that. Speed to market, business revenue, ongoing compliance, new therapies, Justin touched on that, and then, cost efficiency. Again, top line, kind of the trends you see here are, a move to top line versus cost, and obviously the compliance itself, reducing the risk of compliance overall. All right, so that brings us to our third discussion point, and I think we're back over to Adolfo for that. Adolfo, I'm glad to bring you into the mix, and I've got a question to kick you off here. What role does cross-functional collaboration play in achieving validation-related goals?
That's a great question. Art, we've come a long way over the years. Those of us that are old enough to remember such a thing, and I'm dating myself now. Now, validation was at one time an activity that was wholly owned by the quality organization. I mean, including facilities, utilities, equipment, systems, processes. This required a lot of technical expertise under one umbrella. But with the advent of risk-based approaches to validation beginning 20 years ago, more and more the technical and design and specification deliverables and responsibilities were owned by the technical and engineering teams as they should be. ISP guidance on C&Q published in 2019 proposed and is generally accepted practice today that the quality organization need not even pre-approve early stage validation cycle documentation anymore. So the days of us versus them, or the engineering and technical roles, adversarial relations with the quality organization, are now much more improved and making for more effective cross-functional collaboration enabled in part by these digital solutions. So digital validation, greatly minimizes, if not virtually eliminates, human errors through the automation of document development, data entry and analysis, enhancing the accuracy of the data and its consistency. So by automating the validation lifecycle, validation processes are standardized and easily reviewed, easily enforced. Thereby, the risk of errors and discrepancies are greatly reduced, again, if not virtually eliminated. So this ensures, reliable data handling, which is crucial for regulatory compliance. So with the advancement of digital validation solutions, more and more the pre-approval and execution responsibilities of the validation lifecycle documentation is becoming the responsibility of the technical and engineering teams, with quality far more secure in taking a post-approval role. These additional controls and limitations facilitate more departmental and functional collaborative processes, and thereby that old adage of trust but verify is far more efficient and secure with the advent of these digital processes, naturally leading to a more collaborative process in the validation life cycle.
Thanks, Adolfo. I've got a follow on question for you related to some of the charts we just saw. We definitely saw that there is an interest and an expectation to move the top line. And given that, what innovative approaches or technologies are you seeing that effectively accelerate validation processes and contribute to this?
Yeah, good question, Art. Given that validation is generally the last hurdle to product realization, it invariably becomes the critical path to product launch. Time is money, right? But we all know that it's not all that. Time is speed to market, but it can also make a difference in the lives of our patients. If we consider the overall validation lifecycle, beginning with specification of user requirements, various specifications of design, design qualification, integration, commissioning, user acceptance testing, including all of your direct impact systems, facilities, critical utilities, equipment, and lastly, your manufacturing and cleaning processes. Those last two are generally the last step in the process that is reviewed by the agency prior to granting approval. And as we all know, rarely does a project evolve according to the original plan and schedule. Most often, rather than the launch. Sorry, I know. Are you guys hearing an echo? Good. Sorry. So, so most often, rather than launch date being pushed out because of schedule changes and failures and having to repeat things, validation, validation tends to get rushed, and then mistakes tend to happen. As we mentioned earlier, by automating the validation lifecycle, validation processes are getting more standardized, more easy to review, more easy to enforce, and thereby the risk of committing errors and discrepancies at that last stage in the process are greatly reduced. So this last step in product realization lifecycle is generally accelerated by use of these digital tools. But we're beyond the mindset of making 3 successive batches that meet all acceptance criteria and calling it validated, saleable product. We're now expected to monitor our processes on a continuing basis. In other words, validation is not finished at the time of product approval and launch. Using these digital validation solutions enables the ongoing capture and evaluation of equipment, product, and process performance to ensure that the overall process control strategies remain in a state of control. More importantly, this becomes a powerful tool for monitoring and understanding interbatch variability on an ongoing basis. This not only helps to ensure long-term process control, but it also enables improvements for better control and better yields over time. And this is all based on product and process data that is now more efficiently captured and analyzed using these digital validation tools.
Thanks, Adolfo. Great insight. We're going to move on to the next section, validation programs. So, quick summary of the findings in here. Validation costs remain a significant challenge to control. 2/3, 60% of respondents stated validation regularly consumed over 8% of project budget, in many cases up to 10% and beyond. 47% of respondents stated that validation budgets are forecast to increase in 2024, 2025. In terms of where programs are mostly organized, it remains pretty consistently throughout the years at the site level or by work process. And only 18% of validation programs are harmonized at the corporate level. CSV or computer system validation was the most common process. And, as sort of part of that, survey reveals varying levels of adoption of CSA, with half either currently adopting or using CSA processes. So, but as you'll see, we're going to share the data that is definitely top of mind and a growing trend. So let's get into some of the data that I just referred to. So you can see the 3-year trend here. The question is approximately what average percentage of your project budget is consumed by validation activity. It's kind of broken up into buckets, as you can see here, less than 4%, all the way up to greater than 10%. You can see that overall, these are all increasing somewhat. There's a little bit of variability as to which particular bar is higher in a given year, but definitely seeing an increase, from 2022 to 2024. So that is definitely an ongoing trend. Cost, in terms of the various processes that are being managed, that is continuing to grow. In 2024, over 50% of organizations were managing 8 processes, and it's a pretty consistent increase from 2023. And we did kind of look at the cohort of those that have a digital validation system. And what we saw there is there was each bar was higher. So those that are doing digital validation are taking on more processes, and a slight difference in what their top one was. Their top one was equipment validation versus CSV, CSA. So obviously a trend to do more digital validation of CSV, CSA. In terms of CSA, let me explain this chart to you. The question was, which of the following statements best describes your adoption of CSA? And these are the various buckets from I've never heard of it, I'm not familiar with it, to, we're fully adopted. So it's pretty spread across. I think the takeaway for us is that 62% have some level of CSA or in the process of adopting it. We did also compare to the digital validation system cohort, and that was 81% have some level of CSA or in process. In terms of the overall respondents, only 14% of them said they were not familiar. I'm going to skip over this one. I'm just kind of a little worried about the time where we are, and this one's a little hard to read and a little complicated, so we're going to skip over this, and we're going to get to the second poll. So, James, I'll turn it over to you. We're interested in where you are in your digital validation journey.
Thanks, Art. Yep, we've started the poll a little bit early here. Uh, so we're already getting some results in. Let's see. We've got 25% about to launch, and 75% already have some projects being delivered digitally. So, a vast standout here are people who already have projects being delivered digitally. Okay, we have a shift here now that we've started the poll officially. 25% have done some work, getting up to 30% now have done some work, some prep work. They're in that initial discovery phase. 7% now are starting today. So I'll give this a moment here as the numbers sort of flatten out. But we are seeing two big standouts here. The initial discovery phase and some projects being delivered digitally make up the bulk of our audience here. There are a few people starting today and a few people about to launch, but mostly those who are discovering and those who are already in digital validation with some of their projects. All right, I'll hand it back to you guys. Yeah, we are pretty even there. About 40% with some projects already delivered digitally, 40% some prep done in their initial discovery, 13 in it's starting today, and about 4% in about to launch. So that's where we're sitting with this audience.
Okay, James, thanks. Let's take a look at what the survey said. In fact, I don't know if it's right in front of us, but I know that in terms of the respondents that were had some digital validation in already in use, it was about 30% of the overall respondents. But let's kind of take a quick look at the summary for this area. Industry change and digital transformation. Survey results underscore a significant shift towards digital validation. In the industry, it was about 30%. Of those 30%, 79% are relying on third-party solutions. Data integrity was the highest priority ranking benefit of a digital validation solution. Changing approaches to validation processes followed by new technologies are the most prevalent factors perceived to drive change in the validation industry. Significant adoption of remote regulatory audits. We'll take a look at that chart with 63% reporting up to half of their audits were conducted remotely over the past year. Certainly digital validation helps facilitate that. And the most impactful aspect of digital transformation on the industry was greater collaboration and information sharing among stakeholders in the validation process. All right, so let's take a look at some of this data. So in terms of digital validation adoption, as I said, 30% currently use the system. There is a shift to digital validation. What the bars represent is when. So in 1 year versus in 1 to 2 years, and you can see over time, there's been a shift moving that closer. 83% of respondents either are that within that 30% or currently plan to adopt a digital validation system. In terms of the benefits of the people that are doing digital validation, as I mentioned, data integrity is number one. Audit readiness. Once again, we hear that global standardization, maintaining compliance. So the 2024 results are here in the bar chart. I did think it would be interesting to look at that versus what we saw in 2023, and some major shifts moving around. So data integrity was number one this year. That was like ninth, in 2023. So some shifting around versus protecting quality was number one. Audit readiness was number two, and that was 10th in terms of the responses last year. So some shifting evaluation of what the benefits are of a digital validation system. We've got a quote here. One of the things we did with the survey is to interview certain respondents to kind of dive a little deeper and get some color around their particular thoughts. And so this compliance manager shared when asked what are the most significant benefits. Digitalization, always a mouthful, that word, has significantly accelerated validation processes, reduced documentation requirements, enhanced collaboration, enabled the adoption of new technologies. It also allows reliance on external experts who possess specialized knowledge beyond internal capabilities. kind of back to the outsourcing, June, where this digital system enables other people to get in versus a more paper driven one. In terms of implementation challenges, here are the challenges that organizations or respondents said they faced. I think a lot, you'll see a lot of kind of change management things here: overcome resisting to change, ensuring adoption, harmonizing the processes, complexity of validation. So a wide range of answers with some kind of change management issues rising to the top. Interestingly, getting buy-in from senior stakeholders, and complexity moved down while complexity validation moved up from previous years. In terms of ROI, some really good news here, where 63% of respondents, whoops, that moved forward on me. Nope, no, it didn't. What happened? Okay, sorry. Not sure what happened there. 63% of respondents said that the actual ROI from their digital validation met or exceeded expectations. And of the remaining 37%, 16 of those said it's too early to tell. So actually, mathematically, the 63 is probably actually higher than that. But, good news there in terms of meeting expectations with regard to ROI. We touched on remote regulatory audits. When asked in the past 12 months, approximately what percentage of your organization's regulatory audits were conducted remotely, 75% of respondents reported that some of their audits were conducted remotely over the past year. So that brings us to discussion point number 4. And I've got a question ready for Justin to help us kind of analyze some of this stuff. What are the most significant benefits that digitalization has brought in the validation industry?
Well, that quote you shared earlier really said a lot of it. And for this audience that seems to be concerned about efficiency, I'll say the efficiency gains are pretty remarkable. I know Kneat has done some studies. We participated in one of those, and the numbers are pretty eye popping, right? I mean, I think we expected that there would be some efficiency gains, but not to the level that we actually got. So it's pretty incredible, going from, a time when, I remember coming into the industry, sitting in a conference room full of binders, trying to get through all that paper to where we are today. But, we ourselves, we moved to a totally paperless model about 15 years ago. And, it really helps fuel the growth of an organization by removing a lot of those barriers to productivity. And, I also think it's made a lot of, managers and other top level staff a lot more comfortable that we're delivering in a consistent and compliant manner, right? Because so much effort goes in on the front end of creating a quality process that engineers can operate within. There's this real level of confidence that when an engineer, whether they be fresh out of school or whether they're a 30-year veteran, when they go out into the field, the product is the same because we've effectively engineered it to be that way. You just don't get that without some of the controls afforded by digitalization.
Thank you, Justin. Just a follow-on question about kind of the challenges to adopting. We looked at that chart. Anything to share there?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah. So, what are the key barriers or concerns that you see when adopting digital technologies in validation processes? Anything to share along those lines?
Yeah, so I think it kind of mirrors, what you found in the survey, honestly. Often that first hurdle is getting that buy-in from your key stakeholders. Digitalization is not new. It's been around for a long time, but it can be a scary proposition because anything new is scary. Finance wants to know what's our ROI. Quality wants to know, is this data going to be secure? And if are adequate controls in place? Managers want to know how it impacts their operations on a daily basis. It brings a myriad of benefits, but there's a lot of important people who have to be convinced to make a change with what they're doing is working. Then you also have to dedicate resources to implement and admin that system. It takes a lot of time and effort on the front end to make these systems worth it. And that means having a person or a team capable of keeping running after the switch is flipped on and you've gone live. I think this is a big reason we see organizations implement these types of systems, and they isolate it to a single work process before they're comfortable to really, expand it to the rest of their organization. Any process or system that touches an entire organization, it's got to be sound. The operations have to be ready to go before they're really comfortable with doing that. So it's a significant resource investment that can be daunting. And then there's the learning curve, right? So user friendly or not, still takes some time and training to get an entire organization to utilize a new system effectively. And that's another area where you have to invest. So three different hurdles there that I've mentioned that require some form of investment with resources. And Adolfo mentioned it earlier that the idea that validation is kind of a one and done activity that's out the door. You absolutely have to maintain validation as an ongoing process to ensure the quality of your product, rather than just signing off the last page and walking out the door. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah. All right,
So
Justin. Thanks for that. I'm a little concerned about the time at this point, so I'm going to ask you to stop there. Great insight, and we're going to move into the final section. I apologize to the audience. We'll kind of move. We'll pick up the pace, but hopefully you're finding this all valuable. So the last section is the future, and we just to kind of summarize. Most respondents, 36%, describe their organization's adoption of Industry Pharma 4.0 as being in the early stages. We're going to talk more about that in a second. In terms of opportunities to improve, the respondents indicated better alignment of validation with other business functions was the biggest opportunity. In terms of what's going to impact the validation industry over the next 5 years, the number one answer was increasing adoption of digital and automated tools. 66% responded with that. With regard to future challenges facing the industry, balancing cost and resource constraints with the need for robust validation activities. In terms of what's going to have the biggest impact, it's increased adoption of digital and automated validation tools, and AI and machine learning are definitely the technologies that respondents indicated would be promised for the future. So just to kind of take a look at these real quick, in terms of Industry and Pharma 4.0, 72% of respondents have some level of Industry and Pharma 4.0 adoption. As I said, the emerging technologies, consistently AI and machine learning. In terms of future challenges, balancing costs and resources, attracting and retaining talent is a big one. Volume and complexity of validation data, complex and diverse products. In terms of the evolution, digital and automated validation, we just spent a lot of time talking about that. ML, machine learning and AI is number 2. Data analytics and predictive modeling is number 3. Interestingly, when we look at the trends, data analytics and predictive modeling and collaboration and information sharing almost doubled to over 40% from a year ago. So those are rapidly improving trends. So I know I went through that quickly, but I'm conscious of your time. And, we want to wrap up with one final discussion point. I'm going to invite June and Adolfo to join us, starting with June. Regarding Pharma 4.0, how are organizations preparing for implementing this shift within the validation processes?
Right, thanks, Art. Just knowing Pharma 4.0 is not something that we can just say out loud easily, because it involves advanced digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, Internet of Things. We're trying to integrate them into every aspect of manufacturing, to make the most out of it, faster product to market. Now, a few preparations, in my opinion, that companies are making will be close monitoring of the development in the regulatory landscape, as I was mentioning earlier, because these are all new technologies. Regulatories are still learning, so organizations need to keep close communication with regulatory, to ensure the learning process is continuous and we know what is coming up next with their expectations. right? So in a way, organization must stay abreast of the latest development. Now, second one would be I think would be adopting a holistic and risk-based approach to what we're doing, leveraging the industry best practice and standards, because all there's a community of practice that's trying to push towards Pharma 4.0, and especially in ISPE, there's a good community of practice with all the latest information that organization can tap onto. The next would be like improvement that company can make, fostering a culture of continuous improvement and innovation. Sometimes like we get so stuck in our older ways of doing things, we cannot see out of it. So open up your mind, go to events, networking, right? So you can see some innovation stuff. The last one I think I want to say is like about upskilling training. I cannot emphasize enough how training is important to get all your most important asset in your company, which are the people that will be driving the Pharma 4.0 effort, that they can see the benefits and the real true value of it. And just answering and upskilling training will really get the people have the real understanding, and answering to what Justin was saying, that a lot of questions about ROI, the benefits, the value, that will solve it a lot, and eliminate the barrier, or at least minimize the barrier for adopting of a digital systems. Right, Art?
Thanks, June. Thank you, June. Adolfo, real quick, as we're short on time. What do you see as the biggest challenges for validation?
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. I did not know if that was just me, Adolfo,
No, that
or
was me. My bad. I'm sorry. And now I'm going to make us
yeah.
even
No
more.
worries. It happens. It happens.
Look, the survey respondents identified balancing costs and resources and attracting and retaining talent as the top two future challenges. I was honestly quite surprised by that response, and it's possibly because of my vantage point as a consultant in this industry, because naturally, we are the solution to those problems. So what's the problem? Anyway, but in all seriousness, I would have expected volume and complexity of validation data to be at the very top. That's my personal opinion of the biggest challenge going forward. As we evolve from small molecules to biotechnology, the volume and complexity of process data and information, and the approaches we take to validating such processes would have been almost inconceivable just a few years ago. But invariably, artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities are going to play a more significant role in product development and commercialization and ongoing process control strategies. So it's hard to imagine a world where this volume of data will be managed in any other way other than electronically. So therefore, it's pretty safe to assume that these digital validation tools will inherently be necessary to run your business. So, once we're operating in this digital space, it's hard to imagine why we would ever convert this information into hard copy for the purpose of an inspection or other regulatory assessments. I mean, these tools that we're using are very thoroughly designed and qualified to ensure data integrity. So it would stand to reason that the old school war room that we've all prepared many times with armies of support personnel standing by large piles of documents that are hurriedly reviewed just prior to sending them into the inspection room, that so-called war room is essentially now in the cloud. The data that has been assured long before the day of the inspection by using these digital validation solutions are all at your fingertips. So therefore, I'm anticipating a day in the near future where remote regulatory assessments are the norm. Of course, this is not going to replace the need to do a physical inspection of facilities and laboratories, but the presentation and review of validation data is not going to require in order to be parked in your facility the way they have been in the past. And I'll stop there because I know I'm way
Okay.
over time,
Yeah.
Mark.
All right. Thank you very much, Adolfo. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and sorry wrap things up. So first, just a quick recap. I encourage you all to keep an eye out for the email so you can have the data, the executive summary and the full report, and which will be available very soon. There's some really great takeaways. We've talked a lot about the strategic focus on process efficiency, audit readiness, and harmonizing. The KPIs that people are using to deliver on those goals are, the compliance with regulatory requirements and standards, and the changes there. The efficiency and improved product quality, as we all know. We're all focused on patient safety, and clearly we're seeing an adoption of digital validation systems and some real benefits of those, and significant increases in remote audits and CSA, among other things. So let me take a moment to personally thank our panel for first making this survey possible, but also your great insight today, and thank you to the audience for taking the time out of your busy schedules to learn more about this survey and the results. Apologize for going over. James, I'm not sure if we have time for questions. I'll leave that up to you, but thanks once again.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Art. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you to the panelists and to our viewers. No, I don't. We don't have time for Q&A. We're already over. So thank you to those of us, or those of you who stuck with us after our time here. If you do have any questions that you want to ask us from the webinar, feel free to leave them in the Q&A box as you're going. We'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards. As Art said, early next week you can expect a link to the recording so you can view this over and over again to your heart's content, as well as an executive summary of the report. And when the report officially launches, you will be of the first audiences to get that report. We'll email that to you as well. So you have the full report. You can dive deep into it. Until next time, again, thank you so much for joining Kneat. Keep on the lookout on stateofvalidation.com for more information about the State of Validation report, as well as next year's survey to get ahead of it already. You can follow us at Kneat Solutions on X, on LinkedIn, to get more information about other Kneat webinars, including our monthly demo, our Kneat Insights, and our partner webinars from some of the companies you've also heard from today. We're really excited about everything that we have from the last year and coming up in this next year. And that's all to do with you and the partners that we have on screen with us today. So again, thank you, everyone. And we will see you next time here on Kneat Solutions webinars. Have a good day.